Welcome to the Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back to my podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. By now, all of you have seen that Derek Chauvin has been made guilty of these 3 charges. And I wanted to kind of read through, because I know a lot of people are kind of confused on what the different charges mean and all of that. So I kind of just put some notes together of some really great explanations so that people can kind of understand. I know it's always bothersome when people feel like, this is something that was on camera, live on television. And the fact that we have to go through, a trial when we all know he's guilty, and people always have these things, commentary on that. And it's so true, but everybody is awarded due process, and the right to argue their position, whether we saw them do the deed or not. So I just want to break down the 3 charges and just kind of a little explanation about them, because I had a couple of people ask me about it, and I figured, since I do have this platform, why not? Okay. So the first charge is second-degree unintentional murder, which says that Chauvin caused Floyd's death without intent while committing or attempting to commit felony third-degree assault. In turn, third-degree assault is defined as the intentional infliction of substantial bodily harm. So this is basically breaking it down to say he may not have set out in the beginning to say, oh yes, I want to kill this person. But when you got into the position of power over that person, you did nothing to, mitigate the damage that you could do, physical harm to the individual, and ultimately caused his death. Okay. The second charge is third-degree murder, which Chauvin caused Floyd's death by perpetrating an act imminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life. So the fact that he leaned on his neck for the better part of 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes, and the begging and the pleading of the crowd for him to let up, and him not, doing so with his hands in his pocket, fixed face, that's definitely a depraved mind and no regard for human life. So that's the third-degree murder charge. And the third and final charge is second-degree manslaughter. This charge has Chauvin that he caused Floyd's death by culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death by great bodily harm. So you are now in the position of where you are causing bodily harm. You are doing nothing after a long period of time to remove the threat of bodily harm to that person, even when they are in a subdued position. Because remember, he wasn't the only cop that was leaning on Floyd. He was, face down, prone position, and the other 2 cops were holding him down as well, and he was on his neck while another one stood close by to stave off the crowd that was out there watching all of this unfold in front of them. So second-degree unintentional murder, guilty. Third-degree murder, guilty. Second-degree manslaughter, guilty. Each of the 3 charges requires the prosecutors, it required them to prove that Chauvin's actions were not objectively reasonable and that they were a substantial cause of Floyd's death. And they were able to, prove all of that. You may hear some talking and stuff like that in the background. People are discussing this in the halls and that sort of thing. So you may hear some noise. But yeah, this was a really crazy time, and especially all of this happening in the middle of a pandemic. And it just, I tell you, it should not take. My thing is this: had that video not existed and it was just people standing on the street, and there was no cameras. Let's say this was 20 years ago. If this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there probably wouldn't be all these smartphones out here. You know what I'm saying? Especially phones with cameras on them that people could be videotaping these things. So it would have been the people on the street versus the cops. You know what I mean? Like it baffles me time and time again. The power of the people is literally, it's in your hands, figuratively and physically. And, it really is. The power's in your hand. If you have a cell phone and you can videotape, you know what I'm saying? As long as you're not obstructing what is going on with the cops, you are allowed to videotape. If a cop tries to grab your phone, that is against the law for them to do that. You have every right to tape. And the power is in your hand, even from, a physical level and a mental level. Because if you're really clicking in your mentals, and when you go to the polls and vote, you need to vote the proper people into office. Because a lot of this has to do with our local judges, our local jurisdictions. I know we're worried about who's going to be president and all of that, and that is important as well. But you have to, all that other stuff that you see, anytime you vote, whenever it's a time to vote for the president, which of course is every 4 years, but anytime you vote for the president, that's not the only thing that's on your ballot. You have to read down the ballot and see your local, city officials, mayors, whoever is on the ballot at that time. Judges, it's so important. Because if you have a corrupt DA that's in bed with the judge and the mayor and the governor and all that kind of stuff, you get foolishness. You get a whole lot of foolishness. Ergo, what's going on in Georgia? You know what I'm saying? Like you get with the voting rights suppressions and, all this kind of stuff. Like you get these sort of things when you put these sort of crazy people in office. So when they get mad and they get ticked off, Georgia got flipped blue. Thank you, Stacey Abrams, who is amazing. A wonderful lady, just such a smart woman on how she moves and how she does her business. And, the way that she fights for justice is just incredible. She's an incredible force here in Georgia, just incredible. And, people are mad. They're big mad, which is why they had to, push their weight and their power behind this voter suppression tactic that they're doing right now. It's really, it's disheartening, but at the same time, it's like, we constantly keep going through this, but you have to pay attention. If you don't think your vote is important, look at the last election. Your vote is important, and they're trying to suppress that. If your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't try to make it hard for you to get out and vote. And I don't know why people can't see that. If somebody has to put in place a law or an executive order or whatever these things are to make it hard for you to vote, that means your vote means something. Because if your vote didn't mean anything, they wouldn't go through the trouble. So I need people to really pay attention to this stuff because, Ahmaud Arbery, that situation was here in Georgia, in South Georgia, and that area down there in South Georgia is a known problematic area. And you have judges and DAs and all these sort of people that went to school together at one point. They're all in the same pool. And we have to be careful about who we put into office on the local level as well. So yes, we need to pay attention to the House and the Senate and Congress and the president, vice president, and all of that. But you need to pay attention to your local Congress, your House and Senate within your state. Your state Congresses are important as well. Your local judges are important as well. Your DA, all of that, they are important as well. Make them do their job and do it justly. So I'm very grateful for these verdicts, and the sentencing is to come, and we're just going to see where that's going to go. I'm not sure of the amount of years. There's kind of talk that with the different charges, he could get like 12 and a half years or something to that effect. And I'm even seeing things where he can even get up to 40 years. So sentencing is key. Hopefully it will be a long enough sentence that he should stay in jail for the rest of his life. That's what I'm hoping it will be. And I'm hoping that I believe the judge can put their piece on it as well. And if they do, then he will get more time. So I'm hoping that happens. But I am very glad that on top of all of this, his bail was revoked and they took him right off to jail. Boom, boom, pronto, which was amazing to see. Because it's unbelievable that he's been walking free and around since, I think, September, October of last year. So he will be jailed until his sentencing in the next couple of months. So, we'll keep a lookout and stay on top of this. And, I hope this brings the family of George Floyd some, I can't even say relief, because you lost your loved one. He has children, and I don't know if it brings them relief, but I hope it brings them a little bit of solace that, this part of the deal is done right now, but there's so much more work to be done. But that's all. I just had to kind of give my thoughts, because I've had a few people ask me what the different charges meant, and I've been kind of reading up on it and bookmarking things and taking notes and stuff like that with my little journalist self from back in the day. Every now and then I have to go back in my bag and dig up the journalist side of me. And so it's been interesting to be following this case since it happened. But that just gives a little explanation. If you want to keep the conversation going, y'all know where to find me. I am on all social media platforms at Onyx Queen Media. Talk to you soon, you guys. Bye.